Hello and welcome, I am Raziel, and so today I wish to talk about multi-system armies, multi-game armies, armies you can use for more than one game, such as Custodes, the Imperial Guard, Demons, and many, many more. Games Workshop absolutely abhors this idea. They don't want you to have an army which you can use in two different games. They want you to have an army for every single game that they make. If you play Age of Sigmar, you have to have an Age of Sigmar army. If you play the Old World, it has to be an Old World army, etc., etc. However, we see that they do not like this idea with basically their new boxes. Because let's take Demons for example. Demons are the one army which can be used in all four games. Age of Sigmar, the Old World, 40k, and of course Horus Heresy. But if you look at their boxes, they just have the Age of Sigmar massively emblazoned across the top of their box. Not a mention of any other system. Why? Well, they don't want you to do that. And that's the weirdest thing about Chaos, because technically you could do 4 different Chaos Demon armies and 1 for each system. Yes, the Old World is a legacy army and are not going to be properly supported, even though there was a massive Bretonnian invasion of demons. But, that's the way Games Workshop are, apparently, and that's the way we're meant to stick with it. And it's a really weird way of doing it, because basically it's a good way to get people into another game. Let's say you have a friend who's playing Custodes in 40k. You go, hey, let's play Horus Heresy. It's like, I don't want to collect another army, I like my Custodes. Like, well, why don't you just use your Custodes? You can use your Custodes in Horus Heresy, and then you got someone else into the game. And I think this was more prevalent when 10th edition came out, and they dropped every single Horus Heresy vehicle from the 40k list straight down to Legends. They're not supported anymore. So people could have bought the Age of Sigmar boxes, or had the Kratos tank or Sicarian tank, and all of a sudden they're no longer viable for 40k. You have to only use them in Horus Heresy unless you download the Legends PDFs. And Games Workshop makes these very difficult to find as well, I find. So, why? Well, basically it's money, we all know this, but why it's a bad thing? They knew this back 20 years ago when they did Chaos Demons. Chaos Demons got a massive re-release, and instead of saying, hey, let's just stick this to one game system, 40k or Fantasy at the time, they made Chaos Demons their own thing. It was like you had Chaos Demons emblazoned across the box with Horus Heresy, Warhammer and Warhammer 40k on the bottom. You even had the mix of bases to go with it. And to really sort of emphasize this point, the legacy armies for the Old World, most of them have many models on the Games Workshop website. I've mentioned this before. Skaven, they're a legacy army. Dark Elves, legacy army. These models are so prevalent within the Games Workshop website. You can go and buy them now, and they're in stock, and you can get them. Skaven have had, a couple of new models that came out late. I would say newish models. They came out around about the end of Warhammer Fantasy, such as that new Screaming Bow. But yeah, these models are available. Even the Skaven Vanguard box can be kind of used in the Old World if you're willing to do a little bit of kit bashing on the Storm Fiends and use them as Rat Ogres. So, and what really sort of grates me on this is that if you're into the lore and you like reading the lore and really getting into it, you'll read something in a book and you're like, hey, this is not the Horus Heresy. Why is this here? A good example is in the Garrow novelization, the Garrow small novella, that's the word. And you will see that Terra gets attacked with Hellbrutes. This is fantastic because it's all of a sudden within the lore, because spiky Chaos Space Marines were around, especially for word bearers. The Chaos Space Marine Combat Patrol box became a viable option for Horus Heresy, especially late stage, as in what they're doing with the release of Fulgrim. And there's another thing, Fulgrim. Demon Prince Fulgrim came out for Horus Heresy. No rules for 40k. And they said there are no plans to give him rules for 40k. Why not? He is Demon Prince Fulgrim. Emperor's Children's fans would be snapping him up. Even an expensive Forge-World model just to use him in 40k. We have Angron, we have Magnus, and of course Mortarion. But no Fulgrim yet. Emperor's Children have had such a low sort of, marketing or any form of observation or actual acknowledgement via Games Workshop. But all, if you're doing Emperor's Children, you can have the classic Noise Marine, or buy the upgrades. And to me, this is kind of puzzling, because not only that, a little bit of converting, you can turn the new Terminators for Horus Heresy, just get rid of that Crux Terminus, and you have viable Terminators for Horus Heresy again. But once again, you'll see that Games Workshop doesn't want you to do this. Now, I've also noticed armies that can be used in multiple games, apart from Custodes and Assassins. This is the only exception to this rule. Always get lead PDF rule sheets. They don't get anything printed in a hardback book or any form of actual core book. They are always demoted to a PDF list. Let's take the Imperial Guard. The Imperial Guard, or the Imperial Army, has a massive amount of models you can use within the Games Workshop website. Almost every single model within the Astra Militarum section is viable for Horus Heresy, except the tanks, minus the Leman Russes and the Baneblades. Those are still viable. Sentinels, even the new ones, the artillery, the ordnance batteries, they're viable. Leonatus, he has rules, well, not as Leonatus, but general on a horse. All have rules for Horus Heresy, but like I said, that is a PDF list and nothing more. But yeah, it gets some support, more than what Legacy armies will get, but knowing that all those models are viable within the Horus Heresy game makes it weird why Games Workshop aren't supporting this more, saying, hey, look, you want your Astra Militarum and you want to try Horus Heresy, do that. And another massive one of it is the Combat Patrol Demons. That one would be the best box for anyone who wants to, let's say, save money on their Warhammer, because that box will be viable for every single system. But if you want to use it for Horus Heresy or the Old World, you have to download that PDF list to do so. Again, to me, this is a massive miss in marketing. You want to sell models, sell them to people who I like 40k or I like Age of Sigmar, but I want to try something else. Go, well, here's Chaos Demons. Try it. You can play this in Horus Heresy. Get this book with it. And that's another thing I want to talk about within this video as well, because that's something else I find grating as well. Well, I am a massive fan of free downloadable rules, but this does seem to be a recurring pattern within Games Workshop. Any army which can be used within more than one game will be demoted down to the PDF section. I know you can say, what about the Empire? Cities of Sigmar Empire. They have made those Cities of Sigmar so very much Age of Sigmar models. I mean, I like the look of them. They look good, but they're definitely going to say, this is very much Age of Sigmar. And not seeing the Forces of Fantasy book, I can pretty much say a lot of the bigger monsters and stuff like that will not be in there or viable for use. Because, you can still get the Griffin, you can still get the Steam Tank. So, there you go. Now, what I was trying to wonder, why would you do this as a company? See, one thing companies want you to do, they want you to spend money. They really, really do. They think it's great when you're spending money. It's fantastic. And if they can sort of trick you into thinking you're saving money, like you say, or you're getting better value for it, they tend to jump on that very, very quickly. It's one of the reasons the PlayStation 2 was such a massive success. It was a DVD player and a game system without any extra add-ons. The Xbox had the DVD player capability, but you had to buy an add-on remote control to use that part of it. GameCube didn't have it. And then we saw that again second time, where the Xbox 360 did outsell the PlayStation 3, don't get me wrong, because it was also a DVD player and it was cheaper. PlayStation 3 was a Blu-ray player, but when people wanted to watch HD and Blu-ray started to really boom, Xbox made you buy an add-on to watch HD DVDs. Yeah, because that worked out. And that actually effectively killed the HD DVD market. There weren't that many HD DVD players. I have said that too many times. But there were many Blu-ray players. And then Sony came along, jumped on this. They jumped on that whole drop of HD DVDs and said, and they released the PlayStation 3 Slim and said, look, it's cheaper and it still has the Blu-ray player and you can still watch Blu-rays. And if you see the latter part of this 7th generation, you will see that the PlayStation 3 just started to outsell the Xbox 360. And they have said many times, it's because people wanted to start watching HD films, physical copies, and put them in their console. And the drop in price, boom. So Games Workshop doesn't want to see this thing there, or they never seem to want to show you that you can get value for money. If you were to play the old world, I would definitely go with one of the Legacy Army rights now, especially if you play Age of Sigmar. If you're playing Skaven for Age of Sigmar, you can try out the old world, give it a go, because you're going to save money, because you're going to get better value because your rule list is free. And I still think all these rules should be free anyway, and they should be more predominantly displayed. These are the rules, rather than having constant hype. This is what's coming, this is what you should be excited for. They should actually have a section where it's like, hey, these are the rules. And if you look at if you look at War Cradle, you'll see that the buy now and go into the shop for Wild West Extras is right on the left hand side, but everything you need to know about the game is predominantly displayed, including the news section. So, and if you look at Mantic as well, they do the same. They make sure that getting the rules is very much an easy way to do. To get started, 3 rules straight away. Simple, really. But Games Workshop are like, well, I don't want you to get value for money for your hobby. And this hobby's expensive. We're not just talking about the models. If you spend on the models sensibly, and not, have a massive pile of shame, and you buy what you need and you paint what you need, paints and brushes and glue is still going to cost as well. And this brings me to a second point about how they kind of trick you. They don't show that you're getting value for money. If you look at the new Dark Angel Deathwing Assault box, hey, it looks great. £135 for that box, and it's not £135, it's £175 because, well, rounding up, because you have to buy the Space Marine Codex to go with it. They said we were going to get a full codex for Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Black Templars and Space Wolves, but suddenly they changed their mind and turned it into a supplement, which means that box is useless on its own, and that's without the rulebook. A lot of people complain about the prices of the Tomb Kings and Bretonnia boxes, but at least that box is good to go from the out, and you don't have to buy anything else. And this is something else we see a lot with Games Workshop. They will sell you something, but you will always need to get something else with it. And it just seems silly, and especially with these multi-faction armies, multi-system armies, which they don't want to advertise as multi-system. They don't want to say, hey, got demons? Hey, well, what game can you use them for? Well, let's just stick the big old Age of Sigmar straight on top, and not actually indicate in any way that you can use it for 40k as well. And demons are one of the biggest armies within all of their lore. It's mentioned there isn't a game, except Lord of the Rings, obviously, where demons haven't had a massive part in their lore. Even Necromunda. There was a massive Necromunda invasion of demons when a webway gate collapsed. Demons are everywhere, and they need to be everywhere. But to say, well, if you want to play demons for anything but Age of Sigmar on 40k, but we really want you to do them for Age of Sigmar, don't even think about doing 40k. You can have that one combat patrol box, which we're not even going to indicate is good for Age of Sigmar as well. Tough luck. We're not going to tell you about this. Which is really, like I said, this is an odd thing to me, because let's say you are a demon player and you're thinking about playing a different game and changing your army. You go, well, maybe I'll just go and change my god for now. I'll go from Nurgle and I'll go to Khorne. So I'll do Khorne for Age of Sigmar to see how Age of Sigmar plays. If I don't like it, I've still got Khorne and Nurgle for 40k. Or, if I want to try out Horus Heresy, if I want to try out the Old World, I have this army. And I can have a different army for each one and still go nuts with it. I can have a Nurgle army for the Old World. I can have a Khorne army for 40k. I can have a Slaaneshi army for Horus Heresy. And I can have a Tzeentch army for the Age of Sigmar, and have them all different. And that's the last thing I want to speak about. So we talk about Skaven being one of them. Is that but they're being very anal about bases right now. Most other games will tell you the base size you need, but aren't so funny about it. Rule-wise, like if it needs a big base, you can just make the base yourself. as long as it's that area. Mantic's really good for this because they actually do a footprint for the actual unit, so you can make a really cool unit. But Games Workshop are like, well, it has to be on this base. So if you're playing Old World, there's a good chance that you won't be able to use any of your models in any other game because it's on a square base now. Way back when, you didn't have to make that choice. As long as they were based on the base that came with the model, and you could line them up in rank and file, you could use them for 40k and Warhammer Fantasy. And it was good because it got people playing both games. And when you got people playing both games and enjoying both games, they're going to talk about both games. And word of mouth is the best form of advertising because it's free. And right now we're seeing a lot of people are getting really upset with Games Workshop and the way they treat their customer base. They seem to be more caring about getting money in. Fair enough, they're a business. That's what they do. So this is why if you look at the new book, The End and Death, Volume 3, you'll notice a very clear omission of statement. I've seen, models and boxes which aren't even limited edition or anything like that be limited on the Games Workshop website. So I think when I got my Sanguinor, it literally said 2 models per customer. But that limited edition box, that limited edition book, there was no such statement stated. There was nothing there. It just said, yep, this is going to be on pre-order here. There's 2,500 copies. That's it. They didn't even limit the number per customer. So why would they? They want to make money, and that's all they're interested. And when a company goes that way, and I now understand, why so many people are speaking out about this, because they don't want Games Workshop to go that way when they're just so blatantly interested in their financial side that they start giving up on caring for their customers, because that way leads to ruin all the time. When you start just thinking about the money and not what the customer wants, you're going to start losing customers. So when they had a 12.6% revenue increase at the second half of last year, you still have to remove 5% of their revenue. So that's only a 7.6% revenue spike from product. Nothing else. Which is incredibly low compared to any other customer or any other company within the last year. It's incredibly low. I think it's actually 50% less than the average based on product. That is not based on any other form of revenue. There, add extra 5% was licensing fees. Licensing out their items and IP. And that's a massive amount on IP licensing. It's more than almost any other company as well. And we're talking about, Marvel doesn't really do that anymore because it's their license and they make it, so they don't really license out. There's a couple of licenses, but the amount that Games Workshop does compared to any other company is insane. We have Joytech toys. We have games made outside of their company by Focus Entertainment and, poor, stupid, bad companies like Saber Interactive. I bet everyone's excited for Space Marine 2 except me. I'm not. I've looked into Saber Interactive. They have not made a good third-person shooter ever. Not at all. God Hand and IPD in example. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I didn't really want to be a rant. I just wanted to talk about this. I like multi-system armies. I like to be able to buy an army and use it in more than one game. So I can actually build this nice narrative, especially if it's demons. And you have your blood goat taker destroy like a creature, or just tear up the Age of Sigmar Mortal Realms, and then he's like, the next game he's tearing up the 40k universe, then he travels back in time and tears up the Horus Heresy. That stuff makes a great narrative, and a lot of people like doing this. A lot of people like to buy an army and use it as much as they can. They might not be able to find a 40k game, or they might not be able to find a Horus Heresy game, and they go, look, God damn, I can't play a Horus Heresy day, and they go, right, I can play Age of Sigmar with you, and get people into games because they got the same army. And there are so many armies that they can do with this with. Anyway, thank you very much for watching again. I apologise for the small run. And Games Workshop hates it anyway. They don't want you to buy one army. They want you to buy lots. And I'll see you all again soon. And of course, link to Wayland Games down below as always. And if you want to save 20% on your Warhammer, free delivery after £20. Or try a new game, something romantic or War Cradle. Definitely go War Cradle. They don't do a discount because they own War Cradle, obviously, but you can get War Cradle at other shops. And there is Forbidden Planet for comics, DVDs, all the cool geeky stuff, and there is my merchandise as well, comics, TV, t-shirts, etc., etc. See you all again soon. Have a great one. Goodbye.